Hey everyone, this is Tell the Truth Sports Radio. I'm going to tell you the truth about the NFL and the NCAA and maybe a little bit of NBA talk. NBA's getting hot out there. I'm going to do more than just talk about my guy, Kyrie Irving. But let's talk about the NFL for a second. Dallas and Minnesota, teams that are in opposite directions after the last week. Dallas with a horrible loss of Green Bay. And it's just, I don't know, that was a bad loss. And it just underachieved against the Packers. And you see after the Packers lost to the Titans that they're still kind of a mess. And Dallas had a chance to knock them out and they didn't. This is not going into Minnesota. If you don't have that killer instinct, you're going to be in trouble. That's not the place you want to scuffle around at in Minnesota. And Minnesota's on, they're feeling really good right now at 8-1. And not just 8-1, but after one of the most thrilling wins on the road in Buffalo in a hostile situation against a great team that's predicted to win the Super Bowl. You win in their place. And Kirk Cousins made some great throws. Now, let's break this game down. Dallas. Their run defense got beat up a little. You can't do that against Cook. You saw Cook run on the Bills. And I didn't see the downhill defense of Dallas. Parsons and Lawrence unblockable. You're under all types of duress, and you don't have a lot of time to throw the ball. You're not really running well. And Dallas is playing fast, and Diggs is jumping routes and making plays. And their secondary is not the best, but Diggs is a gambler. But Diggs is aggressive. Diggs can get burned, but Diggs can make plays. Diggs is gonna give you the effort. He's not afraid to get after the receiver. And if he gets burned, his mentality is, so what? I'll get a pick six, even if I get burned. I do like his mentality. Now, he's not all world cornerback. He's just a very good, aggressive cornerback. How does that match up with Jefferson go? I think Diggs will have his moments. I don't think you put Diggs and Jefferson. I don't think I want that to be a one-on-one matchup. I want to have a safety, and then I gotta have my other guy on Thielen, and then they got to put pressure on Cousins. This is the key for Dallas to win. I'll tell you right now. I'll give you the key to win Minnesota win. Key for Dallas to win. First of all, you got to put some heat on Cousins, and he will make a mistake. He made some bad reads and bad mistakes. And when he does, this is the thing about Kirk Cousins. When he sits in the pocket and he has time, he does make some good throws. He's not a guy that just can't play out there. When he has to move around, he's not as good, but he has so many weapons, and they are good. They're solid on defense. They got dudes all over the place. Safeties, the safety's great. Patrick Peterson can still make plays in the secondary, as you attest to last week's 2 picks. You got a great tight end. You got Dalvin Cook. You got Thielen. You got the best receiver. I would say the best receiver in football right now in Jefferson. No disrespect to Diggs and all the other great receivers. And you got a good line. You have to put some heat on Cousins. And then when Cousins makes mistakes, you have to capitalize on his mistakes. And you have to get them behind. You have to have Minnesota trailing, because that crowd is going to be electric. They're so psyched up right now, thinking, man, this could be the year after all these years of coming up short. And then Dallas, and you can't be shook from the gag job you did last week in Lambeau Field. Davis and Pollard ran the ball. I don't know Zeke's status, but Davis coming off the bench and Pollard ran well in between the tackles, which I didn't know he could do. Pollard and they ran behind their line is good. Dallas's line is good. They ran the ball pretty well against Green Bay. They have to run it well enough, and Dak cannot, when you have a lead like they had last week and they're driving, Dak cannot make that bad red zone mistake. This is what Minnesota does well. They bend, but they don't break. If you saw Buffalo moving up and down the field, and then they They got Buffalo to turn the ball over a couple of times. Dak hasn't made the proper read. Schultz, he's got to make sure Schultz is going to be there. Diggs has got to do what he did last week. And Gallup, they all have to be on one accord because it's all hands on deck, especially if Minnesota gets going. That means you're going to have to score too. If they can stop Cousins, put pressure on Cousins, then okay, there's not a premium on them scoring. But if it turns into a shootout, Dak has to have the ability to, because Dak is just as good, if not better, than Cousins. But they're both mistake prone. What quarterback makes that horrible mistake? Now, Dallas is undefeated in Minnesota's brand new building. So is Minnesota due? But those are the keys for Dallas. They have to have good balance. And Dak, he doesn't scramble. He's not as quick when he scrambles. I don't know if it's the leg injuries. So he's got to make plays in the NFL. If you're a good pocket quarterback, you got to be able to get out of pocket with the elaborate zone blitzes and the way the defenses are set up with the good pass rush. You got to be able to move. Even the great ones move. Brady will move a little bit, but Mahomes does it. Every great quarterback, Aaron Rodgers does it. Every great quarterback that's playing this league, Josh Allen does it. That can move, has to be able to move good in the pocket, and Dak has to be able to do that and keep the play alive with the talent he has with Schultz and those guys. But Minnesota's a bend don't break defense. So even when they drive and Minnesota lets you go down the field, you got to make sure Kendrick doesn't get in on a sack. You have to make sure that you score touchdowns, especially in Minnesota. You get in that red zone, you pound that rock, and if that doesn't work, you play action and you throw the ball down the seam route to Schultz to see if that works. Now, for Minnesota, there's a tremendous emotional high they had against the Bills. They have to forget about that game and continue to be the great Minnesota team they've been all year long. And what they got to do, Cook has got to get going. You can't assume that Cousins is going to be as great as he was in Buffalo, as good as he is, as good as he can be at home. Now, I think he's going to be solid at home, but they got to keep the mistakes to a minimum at the quarterback position, run the ball to Cook. Jefferson's got to beat Diggs. He's got to win that matchup. If that's one-on-one and they're in a formation and Cousins sees that, Jefferson's got to beat him, and they got to make Dallas pay. The bend but don't break defense has got to continue that. They got to make sure that they turn the Cowboys over. And the crowd is going to be electric because now they believe now. And I'm picking Minnesota to win this game. My head is saying, man, be careful with picking Minnesota because Cousins could turn back into Cousins, and Dallas is desperate because they can't go 6-4. And you could, even though the Eagles lost, you could probably forget the division. Then you got the Giants coming in, so you that's a whole lot of pressure. I'm going against that because my head is saying, listen, the Cowboys, they are going to make enough plays, and Parsons and Lawrence and those dudes are going to get home to Cousins, and Cousins is going to throw the ball all over the place, and he'll go back to his normal self under pressure. But I just feel like Minnesota has enough momentum after last week. They're not going to be too high. They're going to be home. It's going to be a close game because Dallas is going to come to play. I'm going to roll the dice and pick the Vikings because Dallas is favored, to pick the Vikings to win outright and go 9-1. And now that puts if they do, that puts a lot of pressure on the Eagles because now that the Eagles lost, they do have the tiebreaker because they beat Minnesota. But if they're neck and neck in that home field and the Eagles lose another one, if they lose to Dallas and Christmas Eve, the Vikings, you would have to go to Minnesota. If you're Minnesota, you don't want to go back to Philadelphia. You don't want to go to the Link. Now, that, with Cousins there, that crowd, that's the house of horrors for Minnesota. Traditionally, all the way going back to 1980 when they played them. But if you're Minnesota, everybody comes to your place with that crowd. I mean, it's indoors. It's not the cold advantage, but you're playing fast with that team with that speed, and you're home and you're desperate to finally get back to the Super Bowl and win it. That makes it interesting. Now, finally, no, let's go to the next game. Chiefs and Chargers. The Chiefs, now that they got Kadarius Toney, they have a lot of good weapons. I wonder if Toney's the guy they're going to try to go over the top. I know they're going to use him in some running formations because he was kind of a runner receiver in Florida. They don't have that guy that goes over the top like Tyreek Hill. Have adjusted. They really are good with the short game, with Juju going down the middle and Kelce. When Kelce's double teamed, he's getting the ball to Hardman. They're running different formations. You know what the Chiefs are good at? And I'm surprised because they're not a big, strong running team. They're very good at short yard situations because they have so many exotic formations on 3rd and 1. They might have Kelce come under center. They might have Kelce in a wildcat. They might have Hardman running the ball as he's coming across as he's coming across in motion. They might have him do a jet sweep. They might fake the jet sweep and go to their running game. To Hilaire, who's pretty good in between the tackles. So they'll do this play where they do Kelce a quarterback sneak where they push him through. They're really creative on those short yardage situations. I do like that. One thing I do also like that they've made the adjustment to spread the wealth. The only problem is this is where Khalil Mack and company on defense with the Chargers, if they could put enough heat, periodically blitz, double Kelce, and hope, that you leave the middle open when you do that, but hope you get home on Mahomes, because if he goes outside the pocket and the middle is open, that's a touchdown. Because he'll get it to Juju and he'll just gas you that way. Because I know they're going to roll their coverage to Kelce. They're not going to single Kelce or Kelce will go crazy. Can their defensive line get home? Can Kansas City's defensive line get home on Herbert? Because Herbert carries. Even though they have injuries and they're not as talented as the Chiefs, Herbert carries the Chargers. His standard is so good and high that he plays at a high level. And I love Eckler. Eckler's a fantastic guy to backfield and in between tackles. This is another hunch I have. Kansas City's a better team, and they're going to win the division. The Chargers are going to win on Sunday night at home. I think they're due. They almost beat the Chiefs last time. It was a bad interception where the receiver, I think he pulled a cramp or something, and Herbert threw the ball, anticipating where he's going to be, and it was an interception. I think it was a pick six. I think the Chargers clean that up. And as depleted they are, they're going to play inspired, and they're going to upset the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm taking 2 serious chances. Picking Kirk Cousins to win a big game and picking against Mahomes. We're going to see Monday when this all plays out how that looks. Now I'm gonna roll the dice again for the 3rd time. Jets and New England. I like the Jets. I think Jones threw a bad pick six in that game that got called back because of a Jet penalty. What if that happens again? Because he's not mobile, like I was talking about the mobile quarterbacks. So the Jets defense is an attacking defense. Zach Wilson, I think he'll be a little better against Belichick's defense. They run it enough. And I just think that the Jets will figure it out, even though they haven't beaten the Patriots in forever. Patriots also are 5-1 against the spread, but I just believe that Garrett Wilson's going to make a play here and there, and they're going to run it enough. And Zach Wilson won't make I mean, he was trying to be. He sometimes tries to be Mahomes. He could throw the ball at different arm angles. He had to just stay basic and take care of the micro, and the macro will take care of itself. And I just think the Jets will win. You know why? The Jets were clutch against the Cleveland, clutch against Pittsburgh, and they took those games, won those games. I think that they seem like they play like they play better on the road. Other than the Denver game, they play better on the road. I didn't like how they played in the Denver game, but they play better on the road. And if you look at the Jets, look at the season they're having. Like I said, they won on the road. They lost. They got beat up by Cincinnati and Baltimore at home, basically. And they lost to New England at home. Even though they didn't play good against Denver, they won against Denver. They won it at Green Bay. Dallas didn't do that. And they beat the Bills. So they're right in the thick of things. If they win this game, that lets me know they're a playoff team. And they could compete for the division if they go to Buffalo and win. Green Bay and Tennessee. And I thought Green Bay was going to win at home. I thought they were going to carry the momentum from the Dallas game, but Tennessee came right out the gate. And this is what you need to do in Lambeau. This is what you got to do on the road. As soon as you get the ball, go right down the field. And they had a 14-yard touchdown pass to Dontrell Hill. Ryan Tannehill was fantastic. Then Aaron Rodgers came back. They missed the PAT 7-6. Right at the end of the half, that was a big drive where Henry rushed for a 4-yard touchdown. And I loved how Tennessee used Henry. They used him at times as a decoy. They ran him. He would get 2 or 3 yards. He might get 1 or 2 yards, but the threat of Henry opened the play action and allowed Tannehill to eat and play well. Green Bay comes right back. It's 14-9. Tennessee has the ball at the 9-yard line. Green Bay has momentum. They're looking to get the ball back and take the lead. They go 6 plays, 91 yards, and is a Derrick Henry pass the ball to Austin Hooper because they had a short yard situation, and I was looking at it when they failed the first time. They could have went up 14-0. They run Derrick Henry up the middle, and he gets stopped. And when they were in the formation, I saw Green Bay load up in the middle, and I'm thinking, boy, this would be a good time to play action. Green Bay sold out, and they succeeded. Green Bay sold out this time. Vrabel saw what happened the last time, gives the ball to Henry. He fakes like he's going to run, throws the ball to Hooper for a touchdown. Great play call. Green Bay comes right back, and Aaron Rodgers, 8-yard touchdown. They get the 2-point conversion, 20-17. Green Bay's going to do it again like they did against Dallas. And this last money drive, right down the field, Tennessee, Tannehill throws a dart in between 2 defenders to Austin Hooper. He looked like Mahomes throwing the ball, and I don't trust him because I've seen his playoff performances, not so great. But he was great this game. And their defense is great. And they have guys missing, but Vrabel coaches the heck out of the guys who are there. And they're so solid on defense. And they got after Rodgers. But now, to be honest, Green Bay had a couple of plays where when it was 27-17, Aaron Rodgers threw a bomb down the field. The receiver didn't run. Christian Watson didn't run the ball all the way out, and it could have been a touchdown, and it was incomplete. And then on 4th down, he missed a receiver that was open, and that was game. And then Tennessee walks away with a W. And Tennessee is right in the thick of things because now, well, you know what that does? That puts them right there with Miami and Kansas City and Baltimore and Buffalo and the Jets. They're all in the same area with Kansas City. If Kansas City loses to the Chargers and Miami wins, they're right there. And Tennessee lost to Kansas City. And they lost to Buffalo. So that is a problem. And I want to look at Tennessee's schedule here to see. They got the Bengals at home. That's a revenge game at Philadelphia. I don't know about that. Jacksonville home, at the Chargers. Houston, that's the easy one. home at Dallas, and home against Jacksonville. So I think at worst they'll probably lose 2. So they'll be probably a 3 seed. I think Baltimore's going to lose a couple of more games. Baltimore, it depends on what Cincinnati does this week. That'll let me know if they're still going to be in the race. But if Baltimore wins out, Baltimore, Tennessee be fighting for the 3 and 4. What happens in the East? Miami, the Jets, and Buffalo. Jets have it tough because Jets have to go to South Beach. They got to go to Buffalo. And Buffalo's playing Cleveland, Detroit, because it's so bad in Buffalo this week. Just give you a heads up. That game's going to be in Pontiac, Michigan. That's pretty cold out there, too, but it's a dome stadium. So Buffalo's got to get right. They got a tough schedule. They better beat after losing to the Vikings in that bad a manner and losing to the Jets, they got to get on the right track because they won't lose this week. I think Deshaun Watson's back. Yeah, I think Deshaun Watson is back this week. So they have to go against him, but it doesn't matter. They got to win that game. Detroit, I don't care if it's in Timbuktu or Australia. They got to win that game. But as far as the landscape, just look at the NFC East and look at the AFC East. Those are going to be the best races. If you're Philadelphia, you got to be real careful because you're battling Minnesota. I think the 49ers are going to make a run. If they beat Seattle like I think they are, they'll probably win the division. Tampa Bay will probably win their division. But Tampa Bay and Frisco will probably be the 3. They'll be fighting in the 3 and 4 area. The Giants are 7-2. And they got to take care of business against Detroit. And then they're set up. They play the Eagles twice. So, and the Eagles play the Cowboys in Dallas again. So that division is not decided. And then Washington won. They could be all the way they play defense and run the ball. And Heineke is a feisty backup. He's a great backup. They're a live dog when the playoffs come. I don't know if you want to see Washington in the first round. Okay, this week is kind of calm before the storm as far as college football. You don't have a lot of great matchups. I'm going to tell you, though. Because next week is going to be great with Ohio State and Michigan, and that everything's going to be riding on that. Then the following week is the conference championships, but this UCLA-USC rivalry, which will continue in the Big Ten, which is ridiculous that they're both playing the Big Ten. But for now, they're in the Pac-12, which I hope they somehow could stay there. I don't think it's going to happen. But this is a great matchup. UCLA, horrible loss last week to Arizona, but they're a live dog because they're home. They will love nothing more to ruin USC season and keep them out of playoff race. How are they going to do that? You know how they're going to do that? Dorian Thompson-Robinson has to go toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams because I don't think either team could stop the other, but USC, there's offensive firepower just a little bit more. Caleb Williams, take a peek at his stats. 3,000 yards passing, 31 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And if you somehow deal with him, you got to deal with Travis Dye, who almost has 1,000 yards rushing and 9 TDs. They are, Lincoln Riley is bringing it offensively. Now, their defense is going to decide how good they play. Defense is going to decide if they can make it to the playoffs. Because if they do lose, they're not making it. If they lose to USC and then turn around and win the Pac-12, they're not making it. So they'll put a non-conference winner from the SEC in. This is hard to pick because UCLA's at home. Chip Kelly wants to. This is for recruits in LA too. You're going to see a lot of potential recruits there. Who's getting those the 5 or 4-star player that's in the LA area or the California area that plays in De La Salle Academy, those great high school programs in LA and San Diego and California and the Frisco area. This could decide it. So I just think that USC has to play their game and play a little defense because Caleb Williams is going to be Caleb Williams, and they run it and take care of business. UCLA has to go above and beyond what they normally can do, like they did against Utah. They got to have the same game. The way they play against Utah is the way they got to play against USC. And like I said, Dorian Thompson-Robinson's got to run it and pass it. And Charbonnet is got to give him the physical in between yards, because I believe you can do that. Look at what Utah did to UCLA. That's their only hope to win. Oh, the NBA. Right now, Boston, they whooped up on my sleeper team, the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion got to come back. When you're playing against a team that's in playoff mode right now, like the Celtics, you better have, it better be all hands on deck. Zion better be there. Everybody got to show up and play well. And that wasn't the case. Jaylen Brown and Dylan White was big time. Tatum was just solid across the board, 19, 7, and 10. And they're getting contributions from everyone. And then if their big guy can come back, they're in championship mode. The Celtics, I can tell you right now, in the East, the Celtics and the Bucks are the two teams. As far as just the most mentally tough teams, you got good teams. You got Toronto, Cleveland's really good. They're not ready yet, but they are built well. Their general manager is, I might give him the job of the year. Atlanta's good, but the way Boston whooped them, Atlanta's in that really good playoff contender team mode. I don't trust the Sixers, because Sixers can get to the finals. I do not trust them. They have to get to the finals before I believe, because I don't believe in Harden. I believe in Embiid. I love Embiid. And they beat the Bucks tonight, but the most important thing is the Bucks always make a move to add a player, and Middleton will be back. So the Bucks and Boston are the teams. And then you got playoff hopefuls. But in the West, it's a little more, it's harder to decipher in the West, because I'd still believe the Golden State's going to make a run, even at 6-9. Minnesota will be better. The Clippers they're going to be in the play-in. I don't think Sacramento, this is going to last. Denver's good. I saw Murray. He's in protocol right now. He doesn't look as fast as he did before the injury. I watched him against the Knicks. Dallas got the MVP and Luka. And they got Luka, and and they're solid across the board. Memphis is you got NBA finals contenders. It's Memphis, Dallas. I still believe in Golden State. Portland's up there. They're a playoff contender. I don't trust Phoenix no more. Utah is it's early. I got to see them. Utah and Sacramento, I don't think that's going to last. Dallas, Golden State, and Memphis are my contenders. And I'm hoping that New Orleans can get better and Zion can come back. I would put them up there too.